introduce our speaker for the day. Tracy Brown is a religious science practitioner, and she's the author of I Turn to Prayer. Tracy is a popular speaker and teacher at CSL Dallas and an active leader in Centers for Spiritual Living. Please help me welcome Tracy.
Oh, nice and short. I love that. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, please, repeat after me. There's only one life.
There's only one life.
That life is God's life.
That life is God's life.
God's life is perfect.
God's life is perfect.
God's life is my life right now.
God's life is my life right now.
We use that chant or some version of it all throughout Centers for Spiritual Living, and I know that many of you in the room are familiar with it and maybe even use it in your meditation practice. It is so perfect as we begin to think today about this theme. So you already heard that the theme for the entire month is global transformation through personal transformation. And Columbia CSL, along with about 150 other centers for spiritual living around the world, have been digging into that theme this month. And as I thought about what does that really mean, you know, global transformation through personal transformation. At first I was like, those are some really cool words. They sound good. They make me feel good. But what does it mean? And I was reading in Science Mind textbook, and this particular quote really jumped out at me. Man is made out of and from life. As effect must partake of the nature of its cause, so man must partake of the divine nature from which he springs. I'm going to repeat it because it's a lot of words. Humanity is made out of and from capital L life. As effect, any effect must partake of the nature of whatever has caused it. So humanity must partake of the divine nature from which it springs. So there's no getting away. If you understand anything about the idea of cause and effect, then there's no separating, right? Whatever is the cause, whether the mental cause, the spiritual cause, the foundation, whatever is causal is a part of whatever the effect is. It's the source, or it is the contributor to that effect. And so as humanity, our cause, our source is this divine nature that we can call God, we can call life, we can call any number of names. I could take the full 25 minutes and give you names for God, right? But that's the cause. And if that is already in me, already in you, already in each one of us, then that is the nature that is trying to express. So therefore, any transformation in me actually is a transformation that is going to impact all other parts of the whole, yes? So once I got that, it's like, oh, that's what I'm going to talk about. And then I thought, ooh, that's really big. And I don't know about you, but maybe some of you are like me. It's like, that's really big and juicy, but I want something a little bit more contained, a little bit more actionable. And so there's a Goethe quote that I use a lot, and I think it is where I'm going to ground myself this morning. And that quote is this one. Let every person sweep in front of their own door, and the whole world will be clean. Let every person sweep in front of his or her own door, and the whole world will be clean. So guess what? We don't really have to consciously, intentionally say, I'm going to transform the world. All I have to do is commit to transforming my world, the people transforming myself in the way I interact with the people I come into contact with. And if I know that you are doing that, and you are doing that, and you are doing that, and you are doing that, oh my God. Right? The whole world will represent and feel and share and expand the love that is the truth of God, the joy that is the truth of life, the peace, the balance, the harmony. That's what it really means, global transformation through personal transformation. And so this idea that it is in every one of us simply reminds me, and I hope you, that the life of God, the joy of God, the peace of God, the balance, harmony, wholeness, beauty of God is in me because God is my source. God is the creator. God is where I began each breath I take. Wow. So, for me, that means the seed of transformation is ready in every moment to make amazing things happen. Now, you know that every seed that exists is guaranteed to reveal and to grow into or expand into its unique expression of the divine. If you plant an acorn, what are you going to get? An oak tree. Because the seed contains everything that is required for that oak tree to grow, develop, and to live in its complete and total oak tree-ness, right? But that acorn doesn't look like an oak tree, but it transforms as it expands and experiences and expresses life into what we call an oak tree. That seed of transformation is in you. So take a deep breath. Release it with an ah. What is the seed that is within you that is wishing right now to transform into expression? What is the seed that is already planted within you that is seeking right now to express itself, to come into physical expression with what you say, what you do, who you come into contact with? Just hold that thought, bring it with you back into this space, this moment, because the answer to that is actually your instruction. You know, there is not really much I can tell you that is not already patterned within you for you to do. We're in an election season and people are really frustrated by it or afraid or in a lot of fear about what the outcome might be. But what I know is that what I do transforms my world and the world around me, and what we all do transforms our world. We all create it together. So whatever we as a nation create in the election process, in the election, whatever we as a nation create, we can always create the next thing, right? So whatever happens on election day is not the end of the world. It is just the next day for us to choose what we will do next. And we often think that what we individually do doesn't make a difference, but it does. Because no matter what we choose, there is that voice that is seeking within you to express itself. So Ernest Holmes reminds us in so many ways. You know, you can't read the Science of Mind textbooks and not be reminded, or anything else that Ernest Holmes has written. But Ernest Holmes reminds us that it is really possible for each one of us to be the light in the world. He said, "Who would know God must be as God." It's not what we say about this divine spirit, this perfection. It's not the words we speak only. It's really about what we do. And if we are truly, truly clear about the source of life being already within us, and each one of us being able to transform our lives, which contributes to the transformation of the world, then that is the demonstration that we actually understand that. Who would know God must be as God. You have no limits except those limits that you accept. It doesn't matter what people say about you or what other people think of you. I often say, I don't need to know who you are to be who I am, right? And I am a child of God. I am a creation. I am an effect of this cause that has put together all these different attributes to show up as Tracy Brown and live a life that no one else can live because they're not Tracy Brown. I can't live your life. Only you can. So if you believe that you know that there is a higher power that runs the universe, that causes all of the organs in your body to work together for good, that creates the thinking behind the thought, that makes the seasons change. If you believe that there is this energy, this power that makes the sun rise and causes all the planets to rotate and move and be the way they are in the galaxy, if you believe that, the only proof that you believe it is that you are as it, creating in your life what is yours to create, moving through life in a way that is reflecting those qualities and attributes of the divine, always expanding, always love, always peace, always joy, or always moving toward that. Because I know it's a process. In the humanity experience, it's a process, right? In the divine experience, that's the way it is completely and totally. And transformation is happening all the time. But that global transformation that we contribute to, our vision in Centers for Spiritual Living, creating a world that works for all or that works for everyone, is a daunting thing. So what I find myself doing when I'm talking or thinking about it is contributing to a world that works for everyone. What can I do today that contributes to a world that works for everyone? And how will the people I know, even if they have never met me before, how might they pick up on the fact that I know there is a God and I am a representation of that in physical form? And one of the things that I remember that kind of inspires me is actually from the Bible, and it's similar to what Ernest Holmes said. Those who know God behave as God, act as God, not in some superior way, but with clarity. And the scripture in the Bible that I love is, "The one who sees me sees the one who sent me." The one who sees me sees the one who sent me, who created me, who birthed me. The one who sees me sees the power and the presence of the divine, not because I am preaching or teaching, but simply because I am being that. Easy stuff. Charles Hannell in the Master Key System wrote that What appears without is what has been found within. What appears without is what has been found within. I'm wondering when you went internally in your mind to ask the question, what is ready now to be transformed, to be expressed as in through me? I'm hoping what you found is the truth with a capital T within, whispering in your ear or into your heart who you can be, how you can represent the power and the presence of the divine. It's not some big, abstract, unavailable or unattainable reach or goal. It just starts with the choice of one action, one decision, one conversation, one relationship. That's where it begins. And if you're doing that and everyone else in this room this morning goes out and does that, we're going to change Columbia, Maryland, DC, Baltimore, and every place else in the country. Because we can do that. We can do that. Now, some of you, if I were to ask you to think of people who, through their personal transformation, actually created a global transformation, you could think of names. Somebody might think of Rosa Parks. She was an individual. She decided that she was going to stay seated exactly where she was, not really out of defiance, but because she was recognizing and honoring that she was a creation of the divine equal to any other creation. She knew who she was, and she said, no, I'm sitting here. And we know now, decades later, that had a huge influence on the transformation, not only in her life, not only in the city she lived in, but all throughout the state and the nation, and ultimately the world. But she didn't start out to do that. That wasn't her goal. She didn't, go to someone and say, hey, Brian, I want to change the whole world. It's all about global transformation with me. You think I should just sit still on the bus today and just sit there? She didn't have that conversation. But through her personal transformation, being willing to risk her safety, being willing to risk her comfort in terms of, if I just do what they say, there won't be any trouble here. Being willing to stand completely, or sit completely in her truth, her personal transformation of the moment resulted, expanded. It was a cause to a greater effect called global transformation. Some of you might think about the woman who started Mothers Against Drunk Driving. She had a personal transformation. How do I make a difference? How do I survive my child's death and make a positive difference for other people? A personal transformation that now has resulted in so many changes in our legislation, in our driving habits, in our expectations, not just in her hometown or her home state, but throughout not even just the nation, but the entire world. Safety laws, different ways of considering drinking and driving, designated drivers, speed limits, lots of transformation from her one individual action. Another person that comes to mind for me when I think about this making a personal transformation that then has this global impact, I can't think about that without thinking of Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes had this insatiable curiosity about how the world works and what is the connection between the physical and the spiritual, the human experience and the divine. Insatiable curiosity, and he went about transforming his own life to understand it, and to understand it in a way that he could embody it and live it and actually know that's what he was doing. And if he had not done that, we would not be sitting in this room in late October of 2016. He did not set out to create a faith, a philosophy, and a way of life. He started asking questions when he was young so that he could transform his own life in a way that would matter, in a way that would make a difference in the world. And one of the reasons I like remembering him is because even though he was the founder of Science of Mind, the writer of the textbook, the creator of what we now refer to as religious science and science of mind, his personal transformation did not come from trauma, so there was no big issue, challenge, opportunity, war, tumultuous experience. His example does not come from anything that was serious or significant pain. His impact on the world came from his own willingness to look inside himself and ask the question, what is seeking to be birthed in me? Knowing that as I birth myself fully and completely into the world, what I do impacts everyone else. So you, this week, I want you to be thinking about what is it that you can do that actually changes you in a positive way, but also know that when you change you in a positive way, you are going to change the world. And I just smile because, we can't even imagine what that will look like most of the time. We can't imagine how what we individually do can impact others. Last week I was invited to a luncheon, and I knew I was being recruited to say yes to serving on an advisory board. Now they hadn't told me that, but I knew because I knew a couple of the people, and I just know how they think, and I knew where the local organization is in its development. And I'm like, okay, someone mentioned the possibility over a year ago that they were going to form an advisory board, and I get invited to this lunch. So I had a suspicion that was what was going on, but I said yes because I wanted more information. I didn't know whether my answer would be yes or no. And one of the women who is on the board of this local group okay, so I just have to I actually have to take a breath because I didn't realize that I was still feeling a little emotional about it. So we were sitting around the table and everybody was doing introductions, and she had already introduced herself, and I introduced myself and told a little bit about my history and my corporate career and things that were related. And she said, I want to tell you something else about Tracy Brown. So now I'm a little nervous, because you don't know what people are going to say ever. So she proceeds to tell the story of how 25 years ago, 25 plus years ago, I was her boss, which is true. So then I really didn't know what she was going to say. Like, oh no. And immediately what came to mind were a couple of situations that I actually knew. With one of them, she was really upset with me for at least 10 years after I left that company. Because I heard it from other people, you know, and I'm thinking, oh great, I guess I won't be saying yes to serve on this advisory board. But instead, what she said was, I haven't always agreed with what Tracy did or said. But I look at my career now and what I have achieved. And whenever I am feeling grateful for all the successes I have had, I think back to how hard it was to work for Tracy Brown. And everybody kind of laughed about that. And then she went on to say, the lessons I learned by watching Tracy show up every day and deal with the hard situations and stay gracious and polite and courteous and represent a peaceful presence in a lot of turmoil, modeled for me that no matter how difficult it was, no matter what was thrown at me, I could get through it, survive, and thrive.
I was not able to find that business in that city.
So, do you have a very smart phone that when it hears your voice, it recognizes your voice and it is trying its best to follow your instructions? That's what just happened. I wasn't giving you instructions for a city. So your personal transformation, what was going on for me during that time when she reported to me, you know, I was one of the youngest executives that this organization had ever promoted into the executive ranks. I was the first African American who had been promoted into that level in that area of specialty. I think there had been someone in nursing, but not in HR or any of the administrative departments. There were so many things that I was dealing with in that moment 25 to 30 years ago, in that period of time. And I'm really clear, a lot of what got me through was I was constantly in prayer. I was constantly taking a breath and saying, okay, live through me. What clarity? What do I need to do? And I was transforming my life into a leader who was grounded and who was clear and who could be an example. But I didn't really know if I was successful. And now, 25 plus years later, unsolicited, this woman says, I changed her life, I changed her leadership, I changed the way that she shows up. And so that's what it means to have personal transformation that has a global impact or results in global transformation. So remember, the world changes one person, one conversation, and one relationship at a time. What I want you to do and encourage you to do this week is remember that you can be the expression of love. That's what your life is all about. That's what my life is all about. That's what Reverend Brian's life is all about, being an expression of love. And Ernest Holmes also said, love, it is invisible in its essence, but apparent through its act. Invisible in its essence, but apparent in its act. So what we are doing is we are shape-shifting when we are in personal transformation, the kind that leads to global transformation. We are shape-shifting our own selves, and then we shape-shift the rest of the world. So just take this in. That me from yesterday is gone. Today I start afresh. Who do I want to be in this life? Who do I want to serve? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? How can I make a positive difference? What do I want to learn? What do I want to acquire? What do I want to release? If I remember that others meet God through me, through my words and actions, how does that change my choices? That me from yesterday fades, and every morning I start afresh and shape-shift into a new expression of love. Please join me in prayer. In this moment, I shape-shift into a new expression of love because I am a representation of my Creator. I recognize in this moment that there is only one God, one life, one perfect expression of love, of life, of joy, of beauty, of harmony, of wholeness, of peace. And that one life is always expanding itself into all of creation, including my life and the life of everyone in this room, that our lives are God expressing completely and totally, desiring to transform the world into more of itself. And so I simply in this moment speak, declare, and claim that right here, right now, is the perfect time to have a perfect day and to be the perfect expression of spirit in my own life and offering that into the life of everyone I meet, come into contact with, or even think about. So with deep gratitude for the ability to do that, for the willingness to do that, for the intention to do that, for the commitment to do that, I am so grateful for this and so much more. And I easily and joyfully release this intention into the flow of divine activity, knowing it must be fulfilled. For the universe only says yes and is always working for the best and highest good of all of life. Knowing this, I just take a breath. Let it go. Amen. Ashe. And so it is.